Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of Safir TV's special series on Hajj, a journey of a lifetime. My name is Ali Hassan and I'm joined by our Hajj expert. Now, today's episode, as I mentioned in the previous episode, is going to be a bit spicy. It's about kissing. That's right, you heard correctly. So let's get to it. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I can see you have a slight grin on your face. I'm kind of looking forward to this one as well because this is something we need to know. We as human beings, we engage in many relations. So let's talk about our family members. Let's talk about our spouses first, shall we? Okay. So we're fond of them, of course. What is and is not allowed with your spouse if both of you have now gone to Hajj and you're both in that state of Ihram? So what is allowed and not allowed?
Now, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows someone to go with his wife or wife with the husband to do Hajj, that's very good.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah. Now, when you are in a state of Ihram, kissing specifically, as we mentioned in this particular point, kissing is not allowed. But what type of kissing are we talking about?
Okay, generally speaking, kissing is not allowed, and I think you're about to give me an exception or two. So I will give you an example. Kissing your spouse, because we began with a spouse, on the cheek. Is that allowed?
It depends. Are you doing it with lust or not?
Okay. Okay, I see where you're going with this. Okay.
Avoid it. Kissing your spouse, like some cultures, on the forehead to show
or the hand,
respect, or the hand.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Like our mothers.
That's fine. There's no problem with that.
Okay, so we have mothers. Obviously, we can embrace them. We can kiss them on the forehead. We can kiss their hands. What about our children? So, for example, my daughter, when she does something cute, I just grab a hold of her, and I don't know how many times I kiss her. That's certainly allowed?
Yeah, of course, that's allowed because there's no any issue which is connected with desire of,
Sure. The L word, lust, let's just call it that. So back to that, which is I think we need to focus on. Your spouse goes with you. I take it you're not allowed to have relations with her while you're in that state. How long is that period again?
We said for Hajj, 2.5 days.
2.5 days. So I'm going to say it, no sexual intercourse with your spouse in those 2.5 days. And on top of it, you're also saying no kissing because obviously if I was to kiss my wife, it would be a warmth. It would be because I would fondly embrace her, obviously. That's not allowed, I think. This is what I've captured.
Yeah, sure. So we are talking about 2.5 days when you're in a state of Ihram for Hajj. For Umrah, we said maybe 24 hours, yeah? So during that time when you are in Ihram, you are not allowed, as you mentioned, to sleep with your spouse. There's no sexual intercourse at that particular period. And kissing one another for lusts.
Sure.
Something which will arouse the idea of having sense. Yes,
will
indeed.
Stimulate you, for example.
Yeah, that shouldn't be done because it will cause trouble at the time of Ihram.
So basically, if you're a newlywed, you shouldn't go to Hajj.
No. Go for Hajj, but know the masail and apply the mas'ala properly. And by the way, some groups, when they go for Hajj, they separate men from women. So women have their own rooms, and because normally it's a shared kind of trip. Rooms are shared between the ladies and rooms are shared between gents. So sometimes it's easy to avoid this particular issue to happen because of this separation. But there are some people who stay in their rooms with their family members, with their spouses. So those are the ones who
have to be extra careful.
Indeed.
Okay, because that's actually very good damage control. If you just separate, if you don't see, you don't want. So that's the extreme. We're talking about obviously sexual intercourse. That's extreme. Let's step back a bit. Flirting. Saying something that may arouse either or. your spouse, for example, is that allowed in this state?
Avoid. In the state of Ihram, avoid.
So for terms of endearments, for example, hey cutie, honey, that's okay. But because you're not doing it to arouse the other person per
indeed.
se,
Yeah.
unless you are.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
So
It
some
depends on
people they use those kind of words in a normal circumstances to show how much you care for the other party.
Okay. Let's say you're not in this predicament. So you are not married. You are an individual that's gone to Hajj. Dare I say it? Another word, masturbation. Is that something? I mean, what are the effects of doing something like that?
Sure. In general understanding, masturbation is haram.
Okay.
Masturbation is prohibited. In just normal circumstances, it's not allowed. I can get this particular case, especially for students, for example, who study in colleges, universities, which are non-Islamic. Sometimes they may find some teachers or people who may propagate this particular idea. So they should know, Islamically speaking, that act of masturbation is haram. And when you're in a state of ihram, also it is haram. So someone shouldn't think that, sleeping with your spouse is not allowed, but masturbation is allowed. No, masturbation is not allowed in that particular case.
I mean, the way that you just said it, yeah, it's a no-brainer. But we do need to talk about these points.
Okay.
Going back to married couples, or actually, it kind of works in both ways here. So you're an individual, you want to get married. This may sound a bit odd, but can you get married over there while you're in that state? Will your contract of marriage be valid? What's the ruling on that?
Yes, when you are in a state of ihram, you are not allowed to do specifically what is known as aqd.
Right.
Aqd, it means to exchange vows between the husband and wife. So two people who want to get married. So to exchange the vows is not allowed when you are in a state of ihram.
Okay.
You can marry after Hajj, but not at the time when you are in ihram.
Have you come across any circumstances? Obviously, mashallah, you're specialized in this. You've gone, alhamdulillah, many times. Have you come across where people have done the aqd? And would it have been valid if they done it? I know you're not allowed to, but are there any exceptions, for example?
No, for getting married, no. You are not allowed to enter into this aqd while you are in a state of ihram. After, yes, and actually some young people, they went for Hajj, during Hajj trip, they finished Hajj together, they got married after.
Okay.
And that's allowed, no problem at all.
So they met there, love at first sight, or whatever you want to call it. They waited until a certain time where they were allowed to enact that marriage contract.
Indeed.
And that's the right way to do it.
Sure.
Okay, brilliant. When it comes to, the question here is touching women. Does that invalidate pilgrimage? Does that invalidate your Hajj? For example, I think I know what you're going to say. You're going to say it depends on your niyyah and who is it that you're touching. So, for example, I'm in tawaf. I'm going through the circuit and I happen to touch somebody, my shoulder brushes with a woman, for example. I don't even know who she is. Surely that's okay. But then there's other types of touches. So if you just talk a little bit about that for me, please.
Yeah, touching by the way, Islamically speaking, we are not allowed to touch a woman who you can marry. A woman you can marry, a woman can be married by this particular man. Touching is not allowed. Sure. So this includes shaking hands, putting your hand on the body of this particular individual,
sure.
An opposite sex,
sure.
You are not allowed. So when it happens, for example, during tawaf, you're going around tawaf and it may happen someone touches a woman, accidentally, it's fine. Intending to touch a woman with desire, with lust, that is prohibited, it's haram. So in that case, you are whatever you do, if it is tawaf may be okay, but you have committed something which is haram. Your Hajj may be okay, but you may commit something which is haram, and there may be penalty there when we are going to talk about penalty, we may mention this, inshallah.
Penalties, absolutely. I think we have a special episode on just penalties. So there's ways to make sure that your Hajj is still intact as long as you pay or make up for something. And obviously we'll go into detail with that. So let's say someone does make a mistake, now that we're talking about this. For example, a married couple, they have sexual intercourse. Does that invalidate the Hajj completely, nullify it, void, pack your bags, you're going back that night or the next day?
No, first of all, you cannot pack your bags and go. We need to remember that when Hujjaj, pilgrims go there, the airports are closed, so you cannot go at any given time you want to travel.
Okay.
Sometimes they close, no one can come in, no one can go out. If they have committed that halal act in other times, but when you wear ihram, it becomes haram. So this may incur penalties, which we are going to talk, inshallah ta'ala.
That's really interesting. You said about the airports are closed. You can't just willy-nilly get up and leave. Is that a security feature of the authorities over there? Or is that something, no, we should just close it off because the Hujjaj are here now. They're not going anywhere. We know their flight details. Why do you think that is the case?
I think this is the case of controlling the number, the traffic of coming and going.
Okay.
There are many other issues which could be also for security purposes.
All right. Well, we've spoken a lot about kissing. And I think I can narrow it down if I'm doing a quick recap, as obviously time is short. We are not allowed to touch any women. Obviously, that is not our wife. And if it is our wife, we are still not allowed to touch them with a desire, to fulfill for example, a lustful act, for example. I think that would be the underlining. Everything else is permissible. Kiss your mom on the forehead, kiss her hand. You know, your children, if they do go with you, which we spoke about in the previous episodes, which is a very nice episode. So thank you for making that so clear. Your delivery was amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you too.
And of course, it's time now to say goodbye. But we will obviously see them again in the next episode. Dear viewers, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that particular episode. And now you know what to do while you're in that state during Hajj, inshallah. Stay tuned for our next episode. We're still talking about the prohibitions while you're in the state of Ihram. That's how important this topic is. We've had to break it down into so many different episodes. Please make a note of the previous ones, rewatch them if you have to, share them with your friends and family members, and definitely stay tuned for the next ones. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.